Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on Diplomatic Channel. I'm Teniola Shoboale, standing in for your regular host, Amarachi Ubani. Diplomatic Channel this week takes a look at Nigeria and South Africa's relationship as President Muhammadu Buhari receives President Cyril Ramaphosa at the State House in Abuja. Later, we focus on the escalating tensions between Russia and other Western leaders over Ukraine. But first, let's begin the program by taking a quick check on discussions in diplomatic circles.
Nigeria has been added to the United Kingdom's travel red list over the Omicron variant. From Monday, only UK citizens and residents will be able to enter the country from Nigeria, but they will have to pay to stay in a quarantine hotel for 10 days. All international arrivals to the UK will also now be required to take pre-departure COVID-19 tests. British Health Minister Sajid Javid says the measure was put in place because of an increasing number of Omicron cases linked to travel.
And we've always said that we would act swiftly should new data require it. Over the recent days, we have learned of a significant number of growing cases linked to travel with Nigeria. There are 27 cases already in England, and that's growing. And Nigeria now is second only to South Africa in terms of linked cases to Omicron. So today, the government has decided to add Nigeria to the travel red list, and that will be effective from 4 a.m. on Monday, which will mean that only UK citizens or residents of the UK can enter the UK from Nigeria from that point onwards, and they will have to quarantine in one of the relevant hotels. We have also decided to require pre-departure tests. That's for all inward travellers. That will be effective from 4 a.m. on Tuesday, and they will be required a maximum of 48 hours before the departure time.
French President Emmanuel Macron says several European countries are considering opening a joint diplomatic mission in Afghanistan. He says a number of issues have been resolved, particularly security for ambassadors to return, but he hopes a mission would open soon. He explains that this would not amount to a political recognition of the Taliban. Meanwhile, Pakistan's foreign minister has called for a fresh effort to stop neighboring Afghanistan sliding further into crisis as he announced an extraordinary meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation later this month. The meeting of foreign ministers from Islamic countries will be held in Islamabad on December 19th with delegations from the European Union and the so-called P5 group of the United States, Britain, France, Russia and China also invited. And on the African continent, Uganda has said that its troops sent last week into Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo would stay as long as needed to defeat Islamist militants, with the progress of the mission to be evaluated after 2 months.
The duration of this operation will be determined by the military strategic end state. The military end state is, of course, to defeat the rebels and to defeat their will to fight. The strategic end state is to create that conducive situation to allow smooth trade between the two countries and prosperity between the peoples of the two countries, the DRC and Uganda.
At least 1,700 Ugandan soldiers have so far crossed into eastern Congo to join Congolese forces battling the Allied Democratic Forces, an armed group aligned with Islamic State.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa recently embarked on a West African tour, visiting Nigeria, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana and Senegal. According to the South African president, the aim of this was to promote trade and investment with other countries on the continent. His first stop was Nigeria. After hours of meeting with his counterpart, President Muhammadu Buhari called for a stronger emphasis on people-to-people relations between South Africa and Nigeria to foster a bond that will mutually benefit both countries as well as Africa. Let's take a look at the highlights from the state visit.
On day one of his West African tour, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is received by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. There is a special welcome parade before the president leads his South African counterpart, who is in company of a delegation of ministers, into a 10th session of Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission in his office. Improving what he terms as a special relationship with South Africa, the president, who also addresses ministers from both countries, is confident that the 32 agreements signed and the two major initiatives launched by both countries will culminate into bigger gains.
Despite the scare generated by the new coronavirus variant, we have been able to hold successful meetings while observing strict coronavirus protocols through fraternal cooperation and understanding. Today has witnessed the signing of new memoranda of understanding between Nigeria and South Africa in diverse areas, including youth development, women and child empowerment, and political consultations, critical areas that will lead to increased people-to-people contact. Existing memorandums of understanding signed during previous binational commission meetings were also reviewed. These include memorandums of understanding on military cooperation, power, cooperation in the field of geology, mining and mineral processing, oil and gas, and several others. Today, we also jointly launched the Nigeria-South Africa Youth Dialogue, another veritable tool for interaction among our youth with the aim of creating shared values and aspirations.
The visiting president is particularly pleased about the reception amidst extreme travel restrictions imposed on flights from and to South Africa after the discovery of Omicron COVID-19 variant.
As African countries, we are standing united against the imposition of arbitrary and discriminatory restrictions that are not only unscientific, but counterproductive in the long run. Indeed, the leaders of Côte d'Ivoire, where we are traveling to later today, as well as the leaders of Ghana and Senegal, have also expressed their dissatisfaction with the travel ban against South Africa and our sister countries in Southern Africa. This is a global pandemic, and overcoming it requires that we collaborate and work together as a collective. The resulting damage to this travel ban to the economies of the countries affected will be considerable and long-lasting. So I want to use this opportunity to once again call on the countries who have imposed this ban to reverse their decisions, whether they are in the northern, more developed economies or in other parts of our continent and elsewhere.
Overall, the meeting between the two leaders resulted in the signing of a new memoranda of understanding, while existing ones were also reviewed for the progress and prosperity of citizens of both countries. New areas of understanding and collaboration include youth development, women and child empowerment, and political consultations, critical areas which both leaders believe will lead to increased people-to-people contact.
For more on this visit, we're now being joined by Professor Chris Isikay, President of the African Association of Political Science. Professor, thank you so much for your time on the program.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
So let's begin generally. How important would you say this visit was for South Africa and Nigeria?
Well, it was an important visit for two countries that are arguably the biggest economies in Africa and are regional leaders in their respective rights in spite of the domestic challenges that militate against their international influence. Second, it was a state visit to Nigeria, and usually state visits between countries are important events. And by the way, it was also President Ramaphosa's first official visit as substantive president of South Africa to Nigeria. So although the visit was long overdue, we can blame the COVID for that. It was better late than later. And lastly, it was important considering the timing, which coincided with the 10th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission, which presented a good opportunity to reflect and review progress made in advancing trade and investment between both countries.
Yeah, and Professor, you mentioned that the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission. In your assessment, how effective has this commission been?
Well, in the BNC is the highest structured bilateral mechanism between Nigeria and South Africa. The 10th session allowed the presidents of both countries to review progress, made in the implementation of decisions and agree on new programs to be implemented by their respective governments. And one of the outcomes, from that was the signing of agreements of cooperation on youth development and audiovisual co-production and program of cooperation, for the implementation of the agreements in the field of arts and culture. However, in my view, the BNC has not lived to its full potential because of the mutual suspicion, between both countries, especially at the very top level since the Obasanjo and Mbeki, era. There are still administrative or structural issues such that should have been history actually over the last 5 years, and some of which are only now being addressed with this visit. Now, these have resulted in several diplomatic tussles between both countries on visa issues, skewed trade in favor of South Africa, and of course the Afrophobic targeting and destruction of Nigerian small businesses in South Africa, and the sporadic responses from Nigerians as we saw in 2019.
Yeah, I'm going to get back to some of the issues that you raised there, but some analysts have described the relationship as a love and hate one of cooperation as well as competition as well as collaboration. At the end of this meeting, President Buhari urged for a stronger emphasis on people-to-people relations between South Africa and Nigeria to evolve to a point where there would be no need for unhealthy competition. How soon do you think we could get to that point?
Well, for me, regional and continental integration in Africa will continue to be elusive unless government starts realizing that it first has to happen at the people-to-people level. So in this regard, we need to get rid of visa regimes in the continent that make it easier for Africans to visit Europe and North America than visit ourselves in the continent. So our government also need to invest in cultural exports such as film and music. In the case of Nigeria, for example, the film and music industry is doing a better job of changing perceptions, about Nigerians as a people faster and better than our official embassy and consulate channels are doing. So the sooner African governments, and in this case, the Nigerian government, do these things, the sooner we shall get to the point of, positive people-to-people relations that President Buhari talks about.
Okay, President Ramaphosa's visit came amid fears of the Omicron variant. He spent most of the trip criticizing the travel bans placed on Southern Africa, but on a continental level, there's still an issue of ease of travel. What are your thoughts on this, and why is this still such an issue?
Well, like I said before, this is one of the thorny issues around people-to-people relations in Africa. We are still stuck in the colonial mentality of divide and rule that foster, imaginary bifurcations between Africans that result in unnecessary competition between our so-called states and the great people of Africa. we need to rethink these contraptions we call states, and negotiate new state structures that are founded on equality of citizenship, irrespective of ethnicity or religion. Once we have such redefined state structures in place, which citizens freely and genuinely feel a part of, many of our states building challenges will become history, and integration will follow organically. This is where we should be heading as a continent, resolve our national identity crisis and the continental role, the continental identity will fall in place so that we can deal with the world, as one entity. This is what will make us stronger against the incursions of new colonial elements like China and even the United States and Europe.
All right then, Professor Chris Isikay, thank you so much for your thoughts on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you, Tenny, for having me.
When Diplomatic Channels returns in just a moment, Nigeria's Foreign Commission in the United Arab Emirates and business leaders celebrate the UAE's 50th anniversary. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia are at their highest in years, with reports of a Russian troop buildup near Russia's borders with Ukraine fueling fears over Moscow's intentions. Ukraine warns Russia is trying to destabilize the country ahead of any planned military invasion. Western powers have repeatedly warned Russia in recent weeks against further aggressive moves against Ukraine. The Kremlin denies it's planning to attack and argues that NATO support for Ukraine constitutes a growing threat on Russia's western flank.
What is happening in Ukraine and what on the border between Ukraine and Russia?
As tensions between Russia and Ukraine escalate, U.S. President Joe Biden says he is crafting a plan to avert a crisis and make clear to Russian President Vladimir Putin that the costs of any military action would be steep.
My Secretary of State and National Security Advisor have been engaged extensively, and what I am doing is putting together what I believe will be the most comprehensive and meaningful set of initiatives to make it very, very difficult for Mr. Putin to go ahead and do what people are worried he may do. But that's in play right now.
Biden's comments come after Ukraine's defense minister cited intelligence reports that Russia had amassed 94,000 troops near the border and may be gearing up for a major offensive in the new year. Last week, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with American Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Stockholm, Sweden, and said Moscow does not need a renewed conflict with Ukraine. Speaking after the meeting, Antony Blinken warned that Russia would suffer if it invaded Ukraine and urged the country to seek a diplomatic exit from the crisis.
It's now on Russia to de-escalate the current tensions by reversing the recent troop buildup, returning forces to normal peacetime positions, and refraining from further intimidation and attempts to destabilize Ukraine. We're watching this situation very closely. We're in close contact and coordination with our allies. In the meeting with the foreign minister, I was very clear that there would be serious consequences for Russian aggression toward Ukraine, including, as I've said, high-impact economic measures that we've refrained from taking in the past. We've been, will continue to be, very clear about those consequences. I think Moscow knows very well the universe of what's possible.
He also said Ukraine is in no way posing a threat to or seeking a confrontation that justifies a Russian military intervention. Russia seized the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine in 2014, but denies aggressive intent in the current crisis and says it is responding to threatening behavior by NATO and Ukraine.
As I conveyed again to Foreign Minister Kuleba today, the United States remains unwavering in our support for Ukraine's territorial integrity, its sovereignty, its independence. We discussed Ukraine's commitment to implementing the Minsk agreements, which we believe represent the best avenue for a diplomatic resolution to this crisis, potential crisis. We also affirmed that despite a massive Russian disinformation campaign, Ukraine is in no way posing a threat to Russia or seeking a confrontation that would justify a Russian military intervention. The only threat is that of renewed Russian aggression toward Ukraine.
NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has also warned Russia against military aggression.
We call on Russia to be transparent, to reduce tensions and to de-escalate. If they do the opposite and actually decide to once again use force against Ukraine, then we have made it clear, and ministers made that clear during the NATO foreign ministerial meeting in Latvia today, that Russia will then have to pay a high price. There will be serious consequences for Russia, and that's a clear message from NATO.
Ukraine, a former Soviet republic that now aspires to join the European Union and NATO, has become the main flashpoint between Russia and the West, as relations have soured to their worst level in the 3 decades since the Cold War ended.
Taking into account the gravity of the threat that a potential new Russian invasion in Ukraine poses, the European continent may be at a very critical juncture right now. We believe it is necessary to show strength in order to avoid the need to be proving it later.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned the West against crossing Moscow's red lines in Ukraine, saying it would be forced to respond if NATO continues to expand its infrastructure, including through the alliance's potential deployment of its own similar missile systems. For now, Western officials are pushing for a diplomatic solution they hope will de-escalate tensions, specifically the full implementation of the Minsk agreements, a ceasefire protocol signed by Ukraine and Russia in 2015.
And finally, we shift focus to Nigeria's relationship with the United Arab Emirates. As the UAE celebrated its 50th year anniversary, Nigerian residents in the country took the opportunity to unite, celebrate, and promote positive narratives about the community. Let's take a look.
Nigeria's Foreign Commission in the UAE, business leaders, as well as the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri-Erewa, joined Nigerians in celebrating the UAE's 50th year anniversary. This event coincides with President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to the ongoing Expo 2020, but for those here, it's an opportunity to forge one strong community and change any negative narratives about them.
It is worthy to note that Nigeria are thriving in their various careers in the United Arab Emirates due to the friendly, conducive, and easy to do business platform created by the visionary leaders of UAE.
The last 2 years have seen more negative news about the Nigerian community make the news. Upstanding individuals have now come together to project the positives.
I have always asked, we need a united Nigeria in the UAE. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to tell all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you for making my dream a reality.
If we work as one united community, talk to one another, that we should not let those small bad ones destroy the good that all of you have done here. You've done amazing things in the UAE. So what we need to do is ensure that we continue to build on the good work that a lot of you have done. And I really, really want to say how much we appreciate you and we're proud of you. But we'll not let those few bad eggs spoil the whole bunch.
All groups represented are in agreement and celebrate what they say is a new dawn. The event is set to be the first of its kind and meets the approval of business leaders as well as the UAE community.
I can say I'm proud to associate myself with that because the first meeting was done with me, and in that meeting, that is when I pledge to support whatever they need to do so as to celebrate Nigerian UAE National Day. And that you can see today. I can see all my brothers and sisters here. Everyone is smiling, eating, and everybody is happy.
We are looking for the new future for them and for our city and for our country and for your Nigerian country also, inshallah.
The message from the community is loud and clear. Upstanding Nigerians say they are keen into the UAE's vision for the next 50 years and are asking their fellow citizens to shun crime and build a positive image for Nigerians in the UAE.
And this is where we end the program today. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can catch up on all our other episodes on youtube.com/channelsweb. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Bye for now.